I created Species Nutrition with one mission in mind: to provide bodybuilders and serious athletes with no-nonsense supplements that work. I put my name and reputation on every bottle of Species Nutrition products. If you want to be your absolute best, join the evolution. Welcome back to Heavy Muscle Radio live. We haven't been live in quite a while. I'm Dave Palumbo, joined by the technician Chris Aceto on this June 4th, 2023 evening. And we are live here. The Toronto Pro let out a couple hours earlier. Iain Valliere won. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Chris and I were talking about baseball cards. And I didn't know Chris had a great baseball card collection that he actually sold at some point. What year was that you sold your collection?
I think it was 1980, and I sold it because
that's a long time ago.
Because Joe Biden #1 was in the White House, which is Jimmy Carter. It must have been 79. What time? What year did Carter get in? Anyways,
76.
Okay, it was right before I guess Reagan got in, and it was
Reagan got in 80. Yeah.
If you remember, the economy was in the tank.
Yeah.
And I remember interest rates, Dave. I was into interest rates then because interest rates were like, I don't know, like on a home mortgage, they were like 15%. And I was a kid.
Like in second grade.
No, because on a bank account,
yeah,
you could get like 10 or 12 or 14% interest.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
You know, so my father, like the economy was really bad. My father didn't have a job. So I sold my baseball card collection for $1,500 in 1980, and I gave it to my father.
That's very nice.
I remember that, and what made me remember that, what triggered my dementia memory, Dave, on that is that I asked you. I said, I called Dave last night, and I said, nobody's in the house. Dave, give me a recommendation for a Netflix documentary, and I watched Nolan Ryan, and Nolan Ryan was my favorite pitcher, and I used to have his baseball cards, and I know that I was shocked when on the documentary people did not know that he did not win the Cy Young Award, and I knew that because I was a baseball fanatic.
Well, the Cy Young Award is the best pitcher of the year, and the guy had some stellar years, and they never gave him the Cy Young Award for some reason.
And I told Dave, I said, it's okay, Dave. I said, you're in good company. I said, because he never won the Cy Young, even though he had 7 no-hitters, and he had like 25 1 and 2 hitters.
51 major league records he has,
5,000 plus strikeouts. He struck out everyone. The list that he has struck out like 50, 60, 70 times, including like Rod Carew, was infinitesimal. And so I told Dave, I said, you know what, you're in good company. I said, he never won the Cy Young. Luther Vandross never won the Grammy, and you never got your pro card. And people would be like, what do you mean David Iver got his pro card? He was big, ripped, and full and hard. I said, nah, it wasn't. No. What do you mean Luther Vandross didn't get a Grammy? He won, he sold 1 million records. No.
Right. You know what? Sometimes you're more well-known if you don't win something than if you do. So I guess that little factoid that Nolan Ryan never won the Cy Young Award is like almost like even it adds another part of his legacy.
Yeah, but what's impressive about watching the reels of Nolan Ryan pitch way into his 40s is just the unadulterated blistering speed in which he just mowed down the competition.
Well, it was funny because they were interviewing some catchers, and I guess back when they first clocked him at like 108 or something like that, I think he has the record for the fastest pitch of all time too, in Guinness Book of World Records. The catcher said that the radar stuff wasn't really accurate then. They weren't good. He's like, I'm telling you, I caught him. He was throwing way more than 108 miles an hour, and that, I mean, this guy caught everyone, so he knew. Think about it. And the guy threw 100 miles an hour into his 40s. It wasn't like he didn't slow down,
Dave, that's why I was never really Roger, even though Roger Clemens pitched for the Red Sox. Right. And Red Sox is like, a team for all New England. Everyone loves Patriots, the Red Sox. So
sure.
was never a super Roger Clemens fan just because people would be like, oh, the speed, 92, 93. I'm like, how about 103, 100? I think Nolan Ryan, they said, was 110 was his fastest pitch. So that's 20 miles an hour faster than Roger Clemens.
Over 100 miles an hour, it's like almost impossible to throw that fast on a regular basis, and he was doing that.
He did it every pitch.
Yeah, funny Roger Clemens story, but a good friend of mine went to Harvard, graduated Harvard, and I guess Roger Clemens was doing like a book signing in Cambridge there. And I was a big Yankee fan, and my friend brought me back like a Christmas present. He got a signed book, The Rocket Man. That was Roger Clemens' autobiography, and I still have it. I have it on my bookshelf. It was signed. I was like, I was happy I got it but I really didn't like Roger Clemens because I was a big Yankee fan. And then he actually played for the Yankees for a while. So after he played for the Yankees, I was kind of cool about the fact that I had the book signed. I'm sure probably my kids. They don't even know it's in the bookshelf. They'll probably ruin it at some point. It's got to be worth money. I would think it's probably like 40 years old or 35 years old, that book now. But anyway, good documentary. If you want to see something on Netflix, watch the Nolan Ryan documentary. Now, getting back to the baseball card collection, I have all my baseball cards. It's a miracle that it survived my father's basement, because my father's basement was flooded 600 times, mold, who knows what was growing down there. I don't know how I had these baseball cards in this like box, like these wooden boxes. They were like wine boxes up on shelves. And I don't know why I never took them out of there when I moved, Chris, because you would think they're valuable. Why would I just kind of left them there. And then one day my aunt, who's living in my father's house, maybe about a year before my father moved out of there and came to Florida, she's like, you really should take these baseball cards. I'm afraid they're gonna like, something's going to happen to them. And I'm like, it's a miracle that nothing happened to them. It must have been meant to be that they survived. So I haven't really looked through them, but I had some good ones. I had Roberto Clemente rookie card. I had some red.
Played for Pittsburgh. Go ahead. See, here I go, Dave. Played for Pittsburgh, died in a plane crash.
And Roberto Clemente died in a plane crash. So I think I might have the card.
It makes him more valuable.
Last year he played. So, yeah, I mean, they're probably worth some money. Now, the real fanatical baseball card collectors keep them in, like, special cases and laminated and all the, other crazy stuff. So, at some point, I guess, it's, time is the only thing that you really have at your advantage. I mean, if I have these cards from the early 70s and I have a couple from the 60s that I had gotten from, like, someone else, they got to be worth cash, I would think. They're like 60 years old or 50, 50 years old.
I don't know that there's collectors for everything, and I oddly enough, I saw somewhere like on Craigslist or something, someone was liquidating their baseball card collection, and I got nostalgic, and I thought like, oh geez, I sold mine in 1980. Maybe I'll go and buy them back. It's like Joe Ito wanted to go buy back Muscle Fitness and Flex.
Yeah.
And so I took my son. This was maybe like 5 years ago, to someone's house, and this guy had they were like in rooms and rooms and rooms.
Oh, really? That many cards? Holy shit!
And he told me that they don't the value has gone down as opposed to like 15 years ago.
Oh, really? Why is that?
There were fewer collectors, and there were different people collecting other things, and only like the most valuable cards were holding their value, but just like, a collection from the 70s or 80s or 90s, he said it was not really worth much anymore.
How much did he want for the whole collection?
I can't remember, but he convinced me that they were worthless, so I didn't. We didn't buy them.
You got to buy them, in other words.
Yeah, he did.
That's funny. Well, let's get to bodybuilding news. First of all, before we talk about the Toronto Pro, I wanted to mention some sad news from the bodybuilding world. I hate doing this, but I hate reporting this. We lost we lost two people this past week. Really three. We didn't talk about Mike Quinn, I don't think, on last week's show, because Mike had died after the show was over. But we were talking about Mike on the show in a positive sense, which is kind of weird. But Jeff Saigo, before we get to Mike Quinn, Jeff Saigo was a photographer. Jeff had approached me probably around 2010 or so, and said, I'm starting to shoot some bodybuilding stuff. I'm trying to shoot some of the shows and Michigan, the NPC shows there. Do you need a photographer? And I said, yeah, that's when I was actually putting together my network of photographers. Like, people don't remember, but the NPC News Online didn't have a website back then. And Muscular Development had a website. I had a website, and I created a network of photographers who shot every show, not only around the whole country, but around the world. We were getting pictures from Germany, everywhere. And we had a lot of advertising dollars coming in because of this. We were very popular. Everyone came to our site. So I was basically paying out all these photographers to shoot the shows. And I had someone in my office who was tagging pictures and all those good things. And Jeff shot every NPC show in Michigan for me, and then started shooting video of our video series that was known as In the Iron Asylum, where it would be Jeff would shoot the video of like, say, Justin Compton, or so. I think that was one of his guys he did. And then I would interview him afterwards and lay the audio track over the video. And they were very, very popular back in the day. You go back and look at them. There was some guys that became superstars, Juan Morel, Akeem Williams, but a lot of big names started out in the Iron Asylum, and they were shot by Jeff. And so I guess Jeff was getting some back surgery recently, and I guess he was coming back or going to rehab, and he had a heart attack and passed. Very sad story. Sorry that send out our condolences, obviously, to Jeff's family. And Jeff and I had a pretty good relationship, when we were working together. And then, of course, as the years passed, and I wasn't really covering shows anymore, I hadn't talked to him quite as much. But he would email me and text me every once in a while, and so it's very sad. I know he was tight with I know he was tight with Justin Compton and a few of the other guys in the area up there in Michigan. But you never know when your time's up. It's very, very sad.
Yeah.
And on a similar note, obviously, Mike Quinn passed, and we talked. It's funny. I don't even know why we brought him up. Do you remember why we started talking about him last week?
No, it was 2 weeks ago. And
2 weeks ago. Sorry, yeah.
I have no idea the context, but I was just spouting off that
we were talking about freaks, right? Just guys that had freaky genetics.
I said that I think it was about. I know how it was, Dave. We were talking about Nasser, and then we were talking about the Night of the Champions that Mike Francois won, and in that show, in the top 5 was Mike Quinn who looked
right.
kind of like a comeback show for him, and then it segued into like me talking about Mike Quinn at the bodybuilding camp where I originally met him in 88, 87, 88, 89, somewhere around, and how popular he was because he was an open book, and fans just loved him. He was the most popular bodybuilder at the bodybuilding camp that Joe Ida would end up buying, simply because at night, like I said, we would have like this social seminar, and people would like open up their lives to fans like this much. And Mike Quinn was like, here I am,
right.
And people just loved it. And he was honest, and he was, vulnerable, and tell people like what worried him, what stressed him, what his negatives were, what his positives were. And then I said that, he started out being coached by, of course, Bob Gruskin. And I said at 19, he was almost as good. He wasn't that far off at 19 as he was when he was like, top whatever, when he got 6th or 7th at the Olympia. That's him at 19. And that's Jerry Scalise at 22.
Yeah, crazy.
And those are just 2 mind-numbing physiques for 19 and 22. Yeah. And so I posted that up right after that show. And then, the news broke maybe a week later or less than a week that Mike had passed away. And, we had talked about, people who know Mike know that he had a turbulent, background.
Right. Yeah.
He just had, like a lot of people, he had demons, and it affected his physique progression, because if you look at him here at 19, what should have he looked like at 28? And the reason he didn't, or 23 or 25, the reason he never took this super leap is because he always had issues in his life, personal issues, and all bodybuilders do, but I think his was a little deeper, because I told you off camera years later, I was with Jay somewhere at like a trade show or something, and someone came up and was like right in my face this close, and this bald guy, and I didn't know who it was, but I could identify him a little bit, like the eyes or something.
Yeah.
And the minute he spoke, you know, I recognized who it was. It was Mike, and he said, I'll paraphrase. You know, I could have gone all the way, but I had some, you know, mental health issues.
Yeah, he told me
but at that point, you know, when he was telling me, he said they were, you know, fixed. You know, because he said he was doing things himself he didn't know about them. So he said that, you know, a lot of the reckless behavior that, you know, he engaged in,
yeah.
You got it. Self-medicating. The self-medicating came from him not knowing. And then once years later, after the bodybuilding was all done, you know, he was, according to him, you know, once it was all over, he was able to get help, and you know, I thought things were great. You know, at that point, like when I met him then last, you know, it seemed like things were, you know, on the straight path.
You know, he lost his sister at one point too, I know, and that really hurt him. And you know, unfortunately, with mental illness, a lot of times it gets worse as you get older, and it was a shame that, you know. But I'll say one thing. You know, I had talked to on Tuesday. We're going to have George Majorano. I don't know if you know George. He's bodybuilder.
Yeah, I know.
George is good. George is going to be on the after hours show, and I didn't know this, but remember this story about Mike had gotten knocked out at a health club at the Boca Golds or something like that? Or
no, I never heard.
George's father is the one who knocked him out, and the reason was Mike was going crazy on him for some stupid reason. I don't want to go into the whole story. I'll let George tell the story on the show, but you know, Mike was running towards him like to attack him, and George, if you know George Majorano, George is pretty short. So was his father, but his father was a tough guy, and I guess he knew Mike was going to, you know, tackle him, so he just knocked him out in one shot. And Mike never really got knocked out. You know, Mike was a pretty tough dude, but George said that Mike deep down was like the most sensitive, kind, nice person, but he didn't want anyone to know that. You know, that kind. You know what I mean? Like some people are like really nice and really heartfelt, but they want to have a tough persona, and that was like Mike. And so that's why he fought so much, because he didn't want anyone to know how, you know, sensitive he was, I think. And I thought that was an interesting little bit of information probably a lot of people didn't know about Mike. You know, you had to be close to him. George was training with him for a couple of years, and Mike actually took him to a show in Jersey, and John Kemper was running the show. And I guess it was like the week before Jason Arnst had won the Nationals. So Jason was doing like a warm-up show or something like that, like to qualify, and George was in the show, and Quinn was training George for the show, and George, like Jason was a little off, and George was really shredded, and George didn't make middleweight. He had to do light heavyweight, so they were both in the same class. And I guess Jason beat him because, you know, that he was Kemper's, you know, boy at the time, and you know, Jason was going to go to win nationals the week after, and Quinn went crazy supposedly and chased Kemper out of the auditorium. John was so scared that he actually left his own show. It took off.
Not surprised.
Because Mike was so passionate about, you know, what he did, that he would sometimes lose his cool, you know. And you didn't want to be in, you know. And Mike, like I said, Mike was a tough guy. You didn't want to really get in the way of Mike when he was mad, you know, because he could hurt people, you know. So good story, and there's a lot more great stories where that came from. George will be on After Hours on Tuesday, but sad news for the Quinn family, and once again, we send out our condolences and everything like that. All right, so I guess let's get to the Toronto Pro Show. Iain Valliere versus Hassan Mustafa. We knew that was going to be the battle, pretty much. I would say of all the people I talked to, 50% thought Hassan should have won. 50% Iain. You know, we weren't there. I'll put some video up, Chris. What was your impression looking at the pictures and stuff like that?
I think that, you know, I think that Hassan gets judged on his glutes.
Yeah. You know,
I mean, I'm not there, but I that's a pretty.
You did just for the record. You used to work with Hassan. You didn't work with him obviously this time. So
yeah, his glutes have held him back. You know, where people say like, okay, why is this guy not XYZ? And it's a lot of times the glutes, you know.
Why does Iain lean back so much on that shot?
He
I would want to.
he hits that exactly like Chris Bumstead. Chris hits it the same way.
Yeah, you're right. Well, they worked together for many years, so there's the reason.
Well, then it was too time consuming for Iain after that. So
no, but he doesn't realize that he would look better if he stood straight up and down a little bit more in that shot. I think he kind of like creases his lower back when he hits
just
that.
won the show, so he's gonna disagree with you and say, you know,
yeah. You know what the problem with Hassan Mustafa is? He's got, if you take him alone and you look at the sheer muscle he's got, like the legs, the shoulders, I mean, he's arms, chest. I mean, he's freaky looking. But when he's a little narrow, and you and I talked about this before. He's so narrow, in fact, that when you put him on stage, it looks a little weird, almost like a Tom Platz like look. You know what I mean? Huge legs. He's got a better upper body than Tom Platz had, but he's narrow, and Tom Platz was narrow on top.
Yeah, I mean, it just you know, you could play the contest, you know, outside of talking about glutes. You know, I would agree with that. You know, there's by himself, you don't notice the narrowness, and the irony is that is the strength of Iain. I mean, you can't say that Iain has a bigger chest, shoulders, arms, or back. Isn't that crazy? Or legs.
Yeah.
And he won. He does not have his big chest, shoulders, biceps, triceps, legs, but he's got width. That helps.
Tremendous width.
Yeah,
tremendous width.
It helps a lot. You don't have to have. I know people who are clueless on the internet would disagree, but you don't have to have, which is a fact. You don't have to have the biggest chest, shoulders, arms, and legs to be able to win a bodybuilding show.
Right.
So he doesn't have as much muscle as Hassan, and he's wider. It worked for him. You know, he had. I looked at the score sheets. I was a little surprised that he had straight first, but I know what judges like, and I know what they necessarily don't like. And what worked for Iain here is, I'm sure he's, quote, drier.
Definitely.
I'm sure his conditioning is a wee bit better, especially in the glutes and hams and maybe lower back. And judges do not like when you're not fully dialed. And Hassan looks tremendous, outstanding, fantastic. And I can guarantee you, someone sitting on that judging panel and say, well, I'd like to see his glutes and hamstring second, without even, you know what I mean? Just, it's like a roadblock in a lot of people's, including judges' minds, that, you know, that his hams and glutes have to be better. And they've been good. They're good here. I mean, they're kind of like good enough. You know what I mean?
Like, look at Hassan standing there alone. He looks like, you know, like he's unbeatable. He looks like Mr. Olympia there. But he has huge delts, but they're not, his shoulder span is not really that wide. You know, that's what people don't understand. And it gets, when he goes on stage, you see that. And it ruins his flow a little bit. And, you know, I wanted to say something in defense of Iain, because I think Iain is probably one of the most underrated guys. Yeah, he has some weaknesses. Lats are attached a little high. Like you said, his chest could be a little bigger. But, I mean, his conditioning is always stellar. Yeah. He's got a great – I love his structure. He's super wide. He's got a good taper. He's got great, insane legs. To me, he's not he doesn't feel confident. He doesn't look confident on stage.
He never does.
No, he's very nervous on stage. And I mean, he's been doing this a long time. He's won a lot of pro shows. He doesn't look like the winner up there. He looks like he's like a deer in headlights still. And that, you know, judges want to see confidence displayed on stage. And I think Iain's still got to work on that. I know that's, you know, everyone has their own little weaknesses. That's just Iain. He gets very nervous. I think he felt a lot of pressure to have to win this show. Probably now that he won it, he's going to relax a little bit, because now he goes, at least he knows he's going back to the Olympia. He got the win. I don't know if he's going to compete in Texas. I hear he might. I don't know if he changed his mind after this win or not, but he won 2 shows last year, you know, so why not do 2 this year? he needs all the stage experience he can get, because it's the more times you're on stage, the less the nerves seem to affect you. But if you had to look at his physique and give him some advice, Chris, like going into the Olympia or even the next show he does, what would it be?
You know, it sounds like an easy fix, but it's not an easy fix. Because he's wide, he needs more muscle, and he probably weighs a ton. You know what I mean?
He's big.
So you'd think like, okay, well, that's ridiculous that he needs more muscle because he weighs XYZ. You know, to be effective at the Olympia, he just needs to have more muscle, you know, a little bit more. I think his condition was better here than I don't know. It's hard to say because the lighting and I wasn't there, but you know, he's had some really impressive showings the last 3 years. But you know, it's hard to give advice for, at the end of the day, what you need to improve on at the Olympia, because the lineup is so deep.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, do you want to be good at the Olympia? Like everyone else, you got to bring in actually better condition than this and be bigger than this. That's just fact, because you know, it's a brutal lineup.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, it's not like he won this show, and you know, you ask me and I said, "Geez, he won and he was still off. Listen, he's got to drop it down another 7 pounds." That's not the answer, you know.
Right.
And it's not like he's not big, so you can't say like, "Well, you just got to, you know, add 7 more pounds," and that is not going to happen between now and the Olympia.
No.
7 pounds on a bodybuilder who's already been competing for what, a decade or so.
Yeah.
So it's hard to give advice at that, you know, at that level.
He should just do a lot of I would just, you know, focus on the Olympia. I mean, focus on the Arnold, focus on winning shows during the year. I mean, he's super popular. He's one of the most popular guys. He's got a good Instagram following. He's making money. You know, not everyone is going to win the Olympia. I know he wants to, but he doesn't have to. He's making a living from bodybuilding, and he's got a great physique. You know, he should just relax. I think he should say, you know what, take the pressure off yourself. Say, you know what, I don't need to put this much pressure on myself because I've already succeeded. I've won shows. I'm at the Olympia every year. I'm a top 10 guy solidly. Once you take that pressure off yourself to have to perform, I think his placings will start going up and he'll look better on stage. I found that I didn't really feel comfortable in my physique until like probably the last 2 or 3 years of my career that I competed. I finally felt like, you know what, I belonged up there. I felt comfortable posing on stage. I didn't get nervous anymore, really, you know, aside from, you know, a couple of butterflies before I went out there. Unfortunately for me, I had shoulder issues and I couldn't really pose my body the way I wanted to toward the end of my career. And that's why I stopped. But, you know, I think he's at a good point now. He's got nothing to prove anymore. He's already proven that he can win pro shows and beat good guys. I mean, he's beaten some really good guys in these shows. From the Kuklos, he's beaten and taken out. You know, along the way, Sergio, right? Didn't he beat Sergio once too? Or something?
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly everyone he beat, but you know, he had a good run.
Always beat, but 1 year I think he's been top 10 in the Olympia. I mean, to be top 10 in the Olympia is any Olympia is, you know, to fly back home and say, well, I'm top 10 in the world. There's only whatever 10 bodybuilders who can beat me, or 8 or whatever placing you got.
You know, you have to take your hat off to all the way on the left, Ross Flanagan, who won that Cal Pro last week. I didn't know he was even going to do the show, and he took third here. I mean, the guy, you know, is competing at a much well over his head at this point. You know, no one expected anything of him. He placed third in this really good lineup, and you know, he wasn't as big as Hassan and Iain, obviously, but those guys are like Olympia guys. So, and he's going to be an Olympia guy this year. He's going to the Olympia because of the Cal Pro win. So I was pretty impressed that he came in here and brought a really good look and finished in that third slot. So the problem was the show wasn't really, the depth wasn't there. There was competitors, but the depth of talent wasn't as deep. That's why it was really a 2-man show with Ross a solid third, and then fourth place was Robin Strand from Canada, and fifth place was Joe Seaman, who we were pretty impressed with a couple of weeks ago, also finishing that 5th spot. So not a super competitive lineup, but the top 2 made it worth the price of admission. You know, I like to see that finally we see someone like Iain Valliere doing one of these shows. I mean, we haven't seen any Olympia guys competing aside from the the Arnold. It still amazes me.
Yeah, it amazes me that there's like, it just amazes me. Yeah, it amazes me that there's a lot about. I mean, I don't know what's going on with people, their family issues, personal issues, injury issues, but let's face it. The shows. There's not a lot of well-known bodybuilders. Not to take away from the people who got third, fourth, and fifth in this show, but where's John De La Rosa?
Yeah, I thought he was competing soon.
No, but I mean, I'm just throwing out a name, that could do. Really
what happened to Sergio? How come Sergio didn't do the show?
Oh, he's got teeth issues.
Teeth issues? What's wrong with his teeth?
He has a tooth. It's a long. He's got like bones coming through gums.
Oh, really? That's weird.
Yeah, that's enough. I didn't tell you that. I'll tell you off.
No. So what is, not wisdom teeth?
No, it's like I think previous pulled teeth when they leave, like the bone and like comes through the gum.
Yeah, but I've had that happen. They usually go in there and they just pull the little shard out. It happened to me once.
Yeah. If you can find a dentist, of course. But I mean, outside of even him, just my point is, there's Justin Rodriguez.
Where's Labrada?
Where's Labrada? Where's I know he's waiting. But
these guys are making a big mistake.
Where's what's his face? I can't even remember, Dave. See, where's the guy? I know he's waiting, but like for example, this would have been a good show for what's his face, the guy that I used to coach, who was crazy at his first Olympia. Everyone was compared him to a young Coleman. That's terrible.
The guy who deadlifts, Joe Mackey.
No.
What's his name from out in California there?
Yeah, he won the Cal Pro twice.
Yeah. He did the Arnold, and then he shut it down, I think.
Yeah. I know. But
why are we both having trouble?
He's competing in the fall, but he stays lean. In this, a show like this, he could have jumped in.
Someone in the comments, help me out here. Who are we talking about? Why can
New blood. I just talked to him, for God's sakes.
Come on, comment guys. Where's John Hansen when we need him? Patrick Moore, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll give you a free jar of Testralize and a bottle of Fiberlize.
My wife and I, took the kids out to eat today, and we were trying to think of this girl who used to, work the Species booth, and my wife had sort of seen a picture of her, and she put a lot of size on, and the both of us, and she's usually pretty good. We could not come up with the name. And you know how, like, when you have another person's name who kind of looks like that same person in your head, and you can't get that person's name out of your head, you'll go nuts. And we had no one around us to say, "Hey, what was that girl's name again that worked the booth?"
Yeah, I'm going to call you Cy Young.
I still can't remember her name. Okay.
When I can't remember yours, Dave, I'm going to call you Cy Young or Luca Vandross.
There you go. That's crazy. So yeah, Patrick Moore should have done the show.
I mean, there's just the guy who almost won last year, Iain Valliere. Not Iain Valliere. The guy who trained from Toronto.
Who?
Who was second in the show last year?
Antoine. Antoine should.
Antoine.
I think Antoine shut it down for the year after the.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
I mean, he's good. There's just a collection of people who
guys that have to qualify. Yeah. No, you're right.
It's weird. Max Charles in shape would have done well.
Yeah, I mean, he just did the Cal, right? He should have just done another one. What the hell?
Yeah. I mean,
right here.
You can go down the list. So, I mean, there's people out there. If we,
a lot of missed opportunities. Yeah.
But like I said, you don't know what people, what their injuries are, what their head is like, what their, what's happening.
I'm reading the comments. That's how I got Patrick Moore, you dummies. I read your comments. That's why I said thank you. Did you see? No, let me pull it up before I give you you probably don't even know. You're blessing Awadibu. He's having a kid.
Yeah. He's having a kid?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I don't know if it's wife, girlfriend. Boogie, the mini Boogie Man.
The Boogeyman in shape would have done good.
Yeah. Well, when you have kids, you know what that means, right?
Yeah. Kids, plural. If this is his first one, it's no big deal. He can still be a bodybuilder.
Yeah, one's not too bad. Two,
Yeah.
forget about it.
Like 8 is enough, in bodybuilding 2 is enough. There used to be that TV show, 8 is enough.
Yeah.
In bodybuilding, it's 1 is enough.
Yeah. I love that show. I don't know why I loved it so much. I did. I was addicted to that show. Hold on.
You should have been a TV producer instead of a. You would have loved that.
But people don't understand. There was nothing to do back in our day. We had to watch TV. There was no internet to play on.
No.
There he is. This is the wife. Andrew Jack responded, soon to be Uncle Jack. Are they friends?
Yeah, they're friends. I think so. I mean, I don't know their personal lives, but you know, they're from the same country. I mean,
That's
they're in
true.
how many Nigerians are there competing at the Olympia?
Yeah.
3. Listen, is that ridiculous? 3 out of the top 15.
It's a good thing that Victor Richards didn't have to compete against these guys to get his pro card back in the day.
No, he'd say they're not big enough.
Yeah, he would refuse to compete against them. That's why.
Yeah.
Blessing writes, Little Boogie, massive blessing. That's great. Congratulations, Blessing. Good guy. Good to happen to a better guy. Your life's changed, my friend. You're not going to be sleeping very much anymore unless you have a really, really, really good wife, you know. But she's going to get tired after a while, and you're going to have to get up, whether you have to do cardio or whatever you got to do. They don't care. Kids got to eat. Every pound that kid gains, you're going to lose. Just remember that. That's how it works, right, Chris?
Yeah, well, you'll see how much sleep bodybuilders really need when the baby's born, and it's just sleeping all day long and growing like by the week. That's.
I knew that I needed a lot of sleep. So I knew that was not something that we would possibly be able to do. I knew I would never be able to have a kid while I was competing.
Oh my gosh, it's too selfish of a sport. That's, I mean.
But I knew. But you know what it is, Chris? I was honest with myself. At least I said to myself, "Look." And my father was always hitting me with this. Don't think you got to make me a grandfather. I don't care. You know, like he was always like trying to like, you know, tell me don't have any kids. You know? Yeah. Until when he got demented, then he changed his mind. But but I knew, I said, look, you know what? This is such a selfish sport. Like all I wanted to do is think about what I had to do, you know, eating, training, sleeping.
Do it all over
again.
again.
Little silly places I had to go, and the shows I had to go to, and people's hands I had to shake, and all those things. You can't do that with a kid. When you have a kid, you're on their time schedule. You're on. If they get sick, you don't go out. You know, it changes your life. And I didn't know firsthand, but I had friends who were going through it, and I'm like, there's no way I could have a kid now. And thank God I didn't get someone pregnant at that time by accident. Because it would have been a life changer for sure. So that's why I waited so long, because I knew that I had to be in the right place, in the right, mindset. But I didn't want to be like an absentee father, That was something that's why I'm, Lee Haney is such a, you got to really look up to this guy. This guy, had young children throughout his entire Olympia reign. Now, I know he credits his wife with being, an incredible mother, and I'm sure she probably did most of the stuff because Lee was kind of young at the time when they had those kids. But Lee was, he was probably going to church every Sunday with all the kids, and and doing the fatherly duties. But that had to be tough. It really had to be tough. Lee Labrada too had Hunter when he was competing.
Yeah, I think when Lee Haney were at the bodybuilding camp. Speaking of Mike Quinn and bodybuilding camp in '88, and so when. Right. It was when it came time to get the airline tickets for the bodybuilders, I think they'd bring the bodybuilder out, and once in a great while they would, bodybuilder would say, can you bring my training partner? And usually the people who ran the camp would say, no way. Or you pay the flight, we'll put them up in accommodations and food for the week.
Sure.
And when it came to Lee Haney, he brought his, one, he's Mr. Olympia.
Right.
So he deserves special, treatment and accommodations. But he said, you got to pay for my wife and my kids. I think it was 2 at the time. Great. And they were kind of like a little outraged until he said, like, I'm doing this whole thing, this Olympia thing with a family. I'm not just, one of these guys who go off to the gym and sleep and avoid my wife and avoid my children. And They were like
Sure.
one unit. They invited him out, and they were there the whole week.
That's awesome. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
it is awesome. I mean, it's hard to juggle, but he was able to do it, which is, I mean, he was unique.
Most people wouldn't even bring the family. He would just be like, "All right, I'm coming out alone." That's all. I don't want the aggravation, but he was a family man. So you got to really take your hat off to him for that. He was a unique individual. He still is a unique individual, and because of that, I remember when his son. I told you the story before, but his I was on an airplane and his son came. this kid comes up to me and says, "Hey, I'm Josh Haney," and I'm like. It didn't even register at first. Lee Haney's my dad. I said, "Holy mackerel!" Because I remember seeing pictures of him in the magazines when Lee was winning Olympias. He was a little baby, and he had just graduated the Citadel. He's a now he runs that show with Lee, and he's doing the bodybuilding thing. But it's amazing how fast kids grow up. That it's just like snap of fingers. Speaking of which. My friend Brian Hoydick sent me a picture of this teen kid he's helping for the teen nationals. The kid's pretty good and looks good. He's got pretty decent muscle. And I said, he's going to have to go against Chris Aceto's son. He's doing teen nationals too. He's like, oh, what does he look like? Is he doing classic or bodybuilding? I said, I don't know.
He's doing trend, bro. Trend. A&E. I put on my glasses, Dave, because I want to see a picture. I get competitive.
I'm not giving the picture.
Dave, I'm like this. You're like.
He got a little nervous though when I said that your son's doing it.
Like this. Oh, let me see what he looks.
He's like, what weight class is he in? I said, I don't know. What is your son? A heavyweight?
Well, he's like 225 right now.
Yeah, he's a heavyweight. Yeah, I said he's pretty tall. I said he's got to be a heavyweight. I said, but he could probably cross over and do classic too. I said he might have to win 2 divisions. I said, Chris.
Yeah. He won't be as good as Mike Quinn at 19 though. Even though all the contest prep stuff came from Bob and I have it all. It's just like one pyramid. It came from Bob, right? It just
trickled down. Yeah.
I can guarantee you everything that anyone did that's related to salt, carbs, diet, anabolics, diuretics at the Toronto Pro came from Bob.
Everything I did was from Bob indirectly. I mean, because it came from Doug, my friend Doug, who was a Bob, Grushkin disciple. I mean, so now, granted, I tweaked some things along the way.
Yeah, I mean, people tweak.
Yeah, but all the basics came from Bob. Every single. That's why when you and I talk about things, I know the whole protocol already.
Yeah,
you
know the whole shtick.
Yeah. And it's funny the more people we talk about, I didn't know Quinn was a Grushkin guy too, and the Mendenhall and this one and that one. It's like unbelievable how many guys Bob indirectly or directly influenced.
Yeah.
He really should have been honored with some kind of a if there was a bodybuilding Hall of Fame, he should have definitely been in it.
Well, I got the ashtray up there, Dave. I got the ashtray. It's right there. I get the ashtray because he'd be coaching you in the basement and you'd be posing for him and it'd be, small basement, small ceilings, and he'd be smoking a cigarette the whole time and flicking his, ashes in the ashtray. That's all I wanted, buddy.
Yeah. Isn't it sad once Joe Weider died that the whole bodybuilding, there never was a bodybuilding Hall of Fame, meaning there was never a place where you can look and see the bodybuilding Hall of Fame, but there was conceptually one. So Joe would have people voted in like Lavroni and Sean Ray. And you say all these bodybuilding Hall of Famers, but I don't think that they induct any. There's no more inductions. I don't think there has been any inductions since Joe gave up the whole thing.
Yeah, no, there hasn't been. And I started that talk way back because it's BS talk, but there's a very serious side to it. I always thought I should have been collecting stuff. I'm just not passionate enough about it. I'm passionate about the idea.
Forget about the power.
Someone should have been collecting all along,
memorabilia. Yeah.
Memorabilia, and it could be the low cable row machine that Arnold used in Pump and Iron.
I think
You know,
Irv Gelb has a lot of bodybuilding memorabilia, and I know Peter McGuff had a very big collection too. Maybe we can get them to donate some of the stuff.
and then you could, if we had a physical place, you know, we could have one room where it was you got to be 18 or older, and then you could talk about the drug issues, you know, and use.
Well, Jake has that huge warehouse, doesn't he, in Arizona? Maybe
that's right. I thought it burned down. I heard it burnt the t-shirt warehouse. Did it catch fire or something? Or
I don't know. He should build something out over there for the whole thing. But you know what? They should continue
you could get
to
you could use like the vodka bottles that LeBron used the night before that, whatever, the Russian Grand Prix that he won.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying even if they don't have a physical place, they should have a virtual website, you know, where they have all the bodybuilding Hall of Famers, and they should continue to induct people every year into this, even though it's virtual and it's online. Who cares? At least you have the distinction of saying, you know what? I mean, because I don't think Jay's in the Hall of Fame, and obviously he's a Hall of Famer, right? I mean, because they're not inducting any more people into the Hall of Fame because no one does that.
I mean, who was doing it, and who, you know?
Well, I think it was Weed. I think it was the Weeder. You know, the Reader. You know,
I think Peter was, you know, might have been the one deciding who went. So.
But you could vote. You could have a panel of people who, you know, like the sports writers or whatever, who gets to, you know, go into the Hall of Fame. I mean, Jay should be in.
Well, we'd have the same issue like with Nolan Ryan. We'd have people who not be in. Would be like, who's the most popular person who never even made it? You'd be like Tony Pearson wouldn't be in. They'd say, well, he, you know.
No, but there's some clear cut. I mean, Dexter Jackson should be in. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I mean, he's the Nolan Ryan of bodybuilding, right? Or Cal Ripken, or whatever you want to.
Yeah. He's the Blade, and he, you know, his condition was the equivalency of like of Nolan Ryan's fastball.
Yeah, Lee Priest should be in the Hall of Fame, I think. Shortest guy to probably, you know, really, you know, crack the top 5 at the Olympia. I mean, he was going up against, you know, crazy, freaky guys. I mean, I don't know. I think someone's got to do something about that. Just like I said, if Jim Mannion's the president of the IFBB Pro League, I think the Pro League should be the one to really do that. And they have that. They have their own website already, so they can kind of build out a little site on there to put the list of all the IFBB Hall of Famers on there. And then they can kind of like, you know, induct new people every year. Maybe add 1 or 2 people a year. I think that would be a good distinction. And you know what? They should have it for the women too. They really should. I mean, I don't know if anyone will care, but at least it's a distinction to let these women know, hey, we respect, you know, what you did, Corey Everson, all these, you know.
Rachel McLish, even though Bob would roll over in his grave.
Oh, Rachel, she ruined Matt Mendenhall. The great Nasser El Somebody.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dave Palumbo. I take back everything I said about you. Finally, someone is speaking some logic here that I will be inducted. I have beaten Dorian in '97, but they will not give it to me because Bagzilla was a favorite, and he was a million one excuses. No, but Nasser won the Arnold. You know, he won the Night of Champions. He won all the big titles of the day. He should be in.
Nasser will say that Wayne rigged the Olympia.
Yeah, for sure. Paul Dillette will agree with him too because he lost prize money that year.
Yeah.
Chris Cormier should be in the Hall of Fame, even though, you know, he
absolutely, without a doubt,
he has like 25 second place votes. Second place.
I said Nolan Ryan had like 70 one hitters, and like Chris Cormier had like 30 second place wins. You know, second places in shows. From like 5
he was second at the Arnold. How many times? Like 8 times, 7 times, something like that.
Every year for
every year that Jay did it, and every year that Dexter did it. I think.
Yeah.
So it's crazy, but Iain Valliere obviously requalified now for the Mr. Olympia competition. I'm sure that's like I said, you know, for some guys that are perennial Olympia guys, it's a lot of pressure. It's nice to get that out of the way. He's done. He knows he's qualified now. I think it's gonna really take the pressure off him. And we see him again this year before the Olympia, which we might. I don't know what show he's planning on doing next, but I think he's going to be even better now because there's less pressure on him at that point.
Yeah, it's
Will we see Hassan Mustafa compete again, you think?
oh yeah, he just got to pick the right, he's just got to get before, all judging panels are different, and he just needs to get in front of a panel who's, I don't mean this in a negative way, they're biased towards mass. When you say some shows are apples and oranges, and you said, half the people there thought, Iain should have won. We started the show. That's what you said, at least. And half the people you spoke to thought that Hassan should have won. And in that case, you simply need to get in front of a different judging panel. In a different judging panel, if there's 8 judges and they throw out highs and lows, if you had 2 other judges, 2 quote other judges, those other judges could be, prefer a Iain physique and he wins again, or very easily those other 2 judges could quickly go, prefer like a mass type physique, and they go with Hassan. So, although the score sheets, it's another typical score sheet. It shows straight first for Iain. That doesn't mean that it's not a close show. So a lot of these, shows, when you throw out highs and lows, and it's often it's closer than it. It's harder for a judge to come to his ultimate decision. I'm going to talk to a judge who I'm curious, what he thought too. A judge that I wonder if he talked to him once in a great while. I wonder if he judged the show. And sometimes, Dave, you know what? Judging is like human nature. You're looking for the guy whose weakness, like you want him to turn it into his absolute remarkable strength. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Everyone in this top 4 was really shredded. I gotta be honest with you. I'm pretty impressed with this top group.
They were all in good shape. I thought great. Hassan has a great ab shot too there.
Yeah.
Big, most muscular. I mean, they all look great. I sound like Joe Eater. That's Joe always said that. They always thought everybody looks great. They're all champions.
Yeah. Iain looks a little flat to me, but I think the conditioning is really what pushed him over the edge.
Yeah, well, that's why I said. Yeah, I told you, Dave, when it's video, and a lot of times too, it's dryness count, and maybe it was that he was drier, even though if he was quote flat.
I think in person. Look at the guy next to him. Look at the guy next to Iain. His back shot. That was pretty impressive.
It's him. Great.
That's what's his name? That was our 4th place finisher, Robin Strand. Amazing. Great back shot. Crazy back shot, as a matter of fact. Look, Toronto, that show is getting better and better every year.
Yeah. It's good that they keep doing it, and it's growing.
Yeah.
Because, you need for the pro league to continue. I mean, you always need anchors. You need the New York Pro, you need the Toronto Pro, you need the Cal Pro, you need because other shows coming out, depending on how successful or not successful they are financially. But it seems like, there's that core that the Chicago is going to be here, Tampa is going to be there. It looks like Texas is here to stay. So you do need multiple anchors to, create enough good shows for people to compete in, to funnel towards the Olympia.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think that it's important, but I think that what the problem is that we're going to get a couple of really good shows at the end of the year where all these guys have to qualify.
Yes.
And then we're gonna have, and then they're gonna all cry for special invites because they didn't get what they wanted.
Yeah. We're gonna have one show where it's like, wow, what a show.
Yeah, that's unfortunately that's gonna happen. So we got Vancouver. Well, first we got the Mr. Big Evolution show in Portugal.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
That's in July.
2 or 3 weeks.
You
have the Portugal
show.
What's that?
Actually, I think there's a Spain show next week.
Yeah, 2 weeks. There's two weeks in Spain, and Portugal is in July. I mean, Mr. Big is in July.
Yeah. I got news for you. Some of these American guys might have to go over there and compete. And then we got the Vancouver Pro in July too. Chicago's the week after Vancouver. So there is a bunch of pro shows coming up.
Yeah.
Tampa's in August, first week in August, and then Texas Pro is right after that. So I think that's going to be I have a feeling that's going to be the most competitive two shows, the Tampa and the Texas Pro, because of the fact that a lot of guys are going to have to qualify there.
Yeah.
And then you got the Masters Olympia in Romania, the end of August. And that's it, really.
Yeah.
You get that Flex show in Italy.
That could be stacked from people who don't, do well in Tampa and Texas.
Yeah. And then there's that Alicante, Spain show, which is the 17th.
I mean, there's still a lot of shows. There's still a lot of shows for people to qualify, but there's a lot of good people to qualify.
Sure. Well, we'll have to see what happens. I'm excited as a fan and as a person who covers the sport that we're in the heart of the contest season now. We're starting to get some good competition, and we have something to talk about. Now, you told me Andrew is doing Texas Pro. Andrew Jack?
Yeah, Andrew Jack is doing Texas Pro.
Okay. That should be a good one.
Yeah.
It's plenty of time for him to get the size he needed on.
Yeah, he's the biggest. I mean, he's big. He's posting up videos. I mean, they're out there. He must be confident if he's posting videos of the way he looks right now.
He's over 300 pounds, correct?
He's 301. So yes. But
he's pretty lean. He stays pretty lean.
Yeah, he's very lean. And William Bonac said that the video that he posted does him no justice.
Really?
Yeah, nothing at all. He said he's like way better in real life than the video that he posted.
Let's put that video up. Yeah, hold on a second.
There's one up with Bonac. He went to stay with Bonac for a few days.
Yeah, this is the one.
That one, man. He said he did that way.
He really does look really big here. His legs have come up. They still need more size, but his legs definitely have gotten bigger too. But the upper body looks like he gained 15 pounds on that upper body.
Yeah, yeah. Giles from MD.
Yeah.
I call it Muscle Dummies. Says that he shoots those calves are fake. That he shoots them.
Too bad no one judges calves anymore, so it doesn't even matter.
Yeah.
He's a big guy. He's a big boy. He's just got that silhouette that like everyone wishes they had. Like any bodybuilder who's starting out has to say, you know what, if I want I want that physique. I want to build on that physique. That's a nice frame to build on right there.
Yeah.
Even Bonac was impressed, and Bonac's not impressed with a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, Bonac's great. Bonac is a great guy, helping him out with his posing, helping him out with his training, and just the fact that Bonac is, a veteran. He's, you talked about, you can be a veteran and still, like we talked about Iain. You talked about Iain Valliere. Stage presence,
right?
Confidence. You can be a veteran and still, you know what I mean. You can be an unbelievable bodybuilder, win shows, and still not have a level of oomph, confidence on stage. So that's another thing that I don't think Andrew really lacks that, but that was, besides helping him with training and posing, that was Bonac was giving him his Bonac pep talk on be confident in what you have.
Look, if I knew that Andrew Jack was doing the Texas Pro, and I'm a guy who needs to qualify for the Olympia, I don't know if I'm going to do that show. Now granted, you can't live in fear of who's going to be in the show, but there is a certain degree of, but there is a certain degree of strategy to get into the Olympia. So if I'm like Labrada and Andrew Jackson in that show, I don't know if that's the show I want to do to qualify for the Olympia. I might think about doing Chicago or doing Tampa before that and getting the qualification. And then if you want to go against Andrew after that, that's fine too, but at least you got the qualification kind of in the bag already.
Yeah.
So
no, it's I agree with you. It's
because he's dangerous. Obviously, we know what's Sampson's already qualified, so you don't have to worry about him. But and what's his name? Derek Lunsford is done.
Listen, he's dangerous to win the Olympia. I'll just say that's dangerous to win it.
Right.
You can't tell me there's like this. There's no big difference between him and Samson Dauda. I mean, go look at 10,000 pictures and videos, and I'll argue that even having to do Texas that this off season, there's no such thing as an off season for me. Just continuing to grow like a teenager. That's the body of Andrew Jack. Is he has the ability to improve going into Texas and the Olympia. Like, he couldn't have looked like this, Dave. He didn't look like this 10 weeks out or 5 weeks out from the Arnold.
No. And just imagine if he had not done the Arnold and grown all the way through to this point, he'd probably be even bigger. But the fact that he did the Arnold was a good move for him because it established him as a guy to beat. And I think now he has a lot of momentum going into this pro show where he's going to qualify, and then obviously going into the Olympia. So it was the right move on his part. But just imagine if Hadi Chupin was going to be in Texas. How many guys would go there to qualify if Hadi Chupin was going to be in Texas? No one.
People, yeah. A few people don't, but
there'd be the regular people. But I'm saying the guys who know they have to qualify, they're not going to use that as their only show.
Because it's a wasted plane trip.
Right. It's
a wasted plane, hotel, wasted tan, carb up, all of it.
Right. Plus, it lowers your stock. If you show up there and you lose to Andrew, now you've already been put in the rearview mirror of this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't want to lose to him if you're a guy who's like vying for a top 5 Olympia spot,
Yeah.
Certainly not before the Olympia. You don't want to lose to him. So it'll be interesting to see, how each person picks what show they're going to do and who qualifies where. But I have a feeling some of these guys are going to wind up doing a lot more shows than they anticipated because of the level of talent we're going to see over the next, 2 months or so.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you.
All right. Well,
have I said that, Dave, on this show? I 100% agree with you, and you never want to Cy Young.
And I'll never be in the Hall of Fame either, but that's okay. Maybe as a broadcast.
Yeah, we can put you in the Hall of Fame for like Olympia, post-Olympia hits, like in a parking lot. 2010 Olympia, 2009 Olympia.
You and I have been doing this maybe longer than anyone else. So we might just make it because of longevity. We might be like the Cal Ripken of bodybuilding analysts.
Yeah.
If we do it into our 80s, then they'll have to put us in the bodybuilding Hall of Fame at that point. They'll demand it of them. By then, Tyler Mannion's grandchildren will be running the IFBB. Anyway, I want to send my condolences out to Jeff Saigo's family, Mike Quinn, and of course, Dave from Quad's Gym in Chicago also passed over this last week. I don't know if you knew Dave. I met him, once when I was in Chicago.
No, I do know the gym though.
Yeah, it's an awesome gym. If you ever get a chance to go to Chicago, I don't know who's taking it over, but Quad's Gym has been there for years. It's a real hardcore haven, and I heard Dave passed as well. So condolences out to everyone. It was a bad week in terms of losses in the bodybuilding world, but the show must go on, and that's the way it goes. That's the way the cookie crumbles. Hopefully, at least you and I are alive right now, still for at least another week or two.
Knock on the veneer desk.
Yeah. I had a couple scares. I was in the hospital for matter of fact, I'm actually feeling some not rib pain, some lung pain. But I'm going to the doctor tomorrow. I got to ask him what's going on. Hopefully, I'm not getting a relapse or anything like that. But I feel fine other than that. But you know what? You start getting paranoid. You see all these people dying around you.
Oh, of course.
And then you get sick, and it's like, holy mackerel, So you're better off being a hypochondriac or a little overly sensitive than ignoring symptoms that you might have, because that could lead to something bad down the road. So just don't ignore. Be like Jimmy the Bull. Go to the emergency room. Lee Priest too. Lee Priest loves to go to the emergency room every little acid indigestion he gets. But you know what? He's better off safe than sorry, I always say. All right. As we say every week, Chris, with Heavy Muscle Radio,
the truth hurts.
It sure does. We will see you back again next week. Stay tuned.